Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The series starts with taking us to the demonic Miram Alliance, also known as the Demon Palace. We see a lot of people waiting in line for something, and a dude says that's a lot more than he expected. Another man tells him that of course they're saying they'll take anyone regardless of faction or sect, and teach them demonic martial arts as long as they have potential, and that he'd miss such an opportunity. Dude says that he would have applied if he was younger. The old man then spots something, asking if somebody died. His coworker tells him that the 10 Demon Palace competition didn't even start yet, and that he's just jumping to conclusions. The old man then asks why there's such a young undertaker here. We see the young boy looking up into the sky, and saying that this is just the beginning, and that he hopes his grandfather is watching. We learn that his name is Bu Yunsel, and it is the name that his grandfather gave him. After finding him abandoned in a field of snow, he learned how to be an undertaker from him who was also one. We see a young Yunsel inspecting a cadaver, and saying that he was an expert of a very swift swordsmanship style. His grandpa asks what made him think of that, and he explains how he's skinny, but the muscles on his left leg are very toned, and defined, especially the front part of the calf. And being an undertaker was a job that made people hate them. His grandfather was very proud of him, and that's all that mattered to Yunsel. His grandfather says that he was an undertaker gifted from the heavens, and no matter what trial he went through, he was always with his grandfather, so it was okay. Until one day, it wasn't. We see him sleeping as his grandfather gets out of bed. He looks out the window towards a bamboo forest, and there's a strong gust of wind. He senses something, but seems to realize what it is, and says that they say that the kind ones never seek you, and those who do seek you are never kind. He tells Yunsel to wake up, and that he wants to play a game of who can play dead better. If he does well this time, he'll get him the clothes and sword he wanted so badly. Yunsel is excited, asking if he's serious. We see him being put into a coffin, and his granddad told him that he should try enduring until sunrise. Yunsel asks why that long, but his grandfather just closes the coffin, and grabs onto his sword. He steps outside, and we hear a man saying that he's hid himself away like some rat, asking him what he thinks. We learn that his grandfather was a martial artist with the Title 7 branch demonic blade, and that his name is Bu Janyong. Janyong says he hasn't heard that name in a while, and the man tells him that he let go of the vice palace master position just to be yanking out a living with some inferior work, and he leaps at him with their attack. We see their attacks colliding, and Janyong says that he took on the job not to eke out a living, but to repent for how he's lived his life. And so we see that he easily blocked the attack. He says that he'll give him his life, but they should do it elsewhere, and he doesn't want innocent people getting hurt. The attacker starts laughing at it, but agrees, saying that he shouldn't even think about running. We see of course that he doesn't even have that intention, but back inside the casket it is shaking until finally Yunsel pops out of it. He says he couldn't hold it anymore, and he really wants the uniform and sword, but it's way too cold. He then wonders where his granddad is, saying that he's usually waiting for him when they play like this, and asking if the enforcers called him in. He says they don't even see them as humans just because they're entertainers. When he exits the house, he's surprised, and he sees tons of marks from the attack that his granddad blocked. And he hears the sounds of fighting off in the distance. He hopes it not to be true, and runs after it. His run comes to a standstill, and he looks visibly horrified as he's staring at his grandpa, whose eyes have been gouged out, and whose arms have been cut off. Yunsel quickly runs over, and his granddad asks if that's him. Yunsel says it is, asking what happened. He apologizes, saying that it's time for him to go. If he dies, he shouldn't continue the undertaker work. Yunsel tells him to stop talking, and Janyong tells him to listen closely, and that he should never think about enacting revenge. But Yunsel grits his teeth out of frustration, and yells, saying that they made him like this, and he won't ever forgive them. He says that if he is not allowed revenge, then he would rather come with him, than be here without him. Janyong says that he thought he could let go easily when he dies, and that this is his last request. He wants him to go very far away, and know that he was very happy while they were together. He draws his last breath, and starts to fall forward, and hits the ground completely motionless. Yunsel stares down at his bloody hands, and his grandfather's corpse, and we see it mentally breaking him, and eventually his tears have gone dry, and he does what he knows best, and performs undertaker work on his grandfather. He says that him telling him not to get revenge was obviously to protect him, but he refuses to listen this time. His arms are definitely cut off at the exact same time by an attack that slices upwards from below, and it's a rare move, and on top of that they change the move midway to stab his eyes as well, and the kind of twisted sword technique has to be from the demonic path. One of those that can make wounds like this has to be the Tianqiu yoga technique, and his back has 93 traces of hidden weapon usage, but even the sky full of falling flowers has at most 66, and this doesn't seem like it was done with another's help, but rather by a hidden weapon that shot hundreds of them at once. There's also the underside of his tongue, and his nails, which are all discolored. This happens when you are poisoned by a lethal toxin that causes putrid flesh and rotten blood. An individual of the demonic path who has learned the Tianqiu yoga technique possesses a high-caliber hidden weapon, and uses munitions that cause putrid flesh and spoil blood. This narrows down who he has to look for significantly, and now that he knows what clues he can follow, he's more determined than ever to figure out who it was. Back to the present, he has a single teardrop on the paper where he's signing his name, and the guards are staring at him, asking what kind of country bumpkin sect is the Janyang clan. One of the guards says he's probably scared since he saw the agreement papers for giving up bodily autonomy, and tells him if he's not going to stamp his finger to just go back. Yunsel then raises his thumb to his mouth, and starts to bite the skin off of it, surprising both of the guards, and he explains that the moment his grandfather passed away his life broke down, and there was nothing left for him but the path of revenge, and that this competition will be his first step towards enacting it. We learn more about how there has been a long time fight between the orthodox and unorthodox sects for power and control inside of the Murim. The orthodox sects, who seek to attain justice, are led by the Murim alliance, and the unorthodox sects are centered around the demon palace, which worships power exclusively, and the two forces maintain balance for quite a while. But the orthodox sects wish to push ahead, and that led to the creation of the 18 martial masters, known as the Masters for the Greater Good. With this new threat of the Murim alliance, the demon palace decided to create a way in which they could advance their power as well. This then led to their plan to create the 10 demon masters. Regardless of previous affiliations, they would select 10 prodigies, and teach them the martial arts of the 10 demonic sects, and offer to teach proper martial arts of the demon palace. This was one of the biggest reasons everyone came to the demon palace to begin with. We see a lot of people looking around inside of the palace, and he says that he senses a formidable aura in quite a few of these people, and among them is likely someone associated with the killer of his grandfather. The killer is a martial master beyond his capabilities of judging. To take revenge on such a figure, he must become such a martial master as well. But as of now, without any affiliation or martial arts, becoming one of the 10 demonic masters is the only way he can quickly become stronger. Some of the contestants look surprised as a man enters with a squad behind him. He introduces himself as the head instructor, Hyuk Ryanong. His nickname is the Gold Dagger, Blood Eyes. People recognize him, and can't believe that the headmaster himself is here. He says this is a place to identify the greatest prodigies among all demon sects, and only those who pass through all trials prepared by them will become a candidate to become one of the 10 demon masters. As for the first trial, martial artists of the demon palace will inspect their physical aptitude. Some of the people ask how this is even a trial, and think that this should be a competition. They start taking them over and inspecting them, and the ones who pass get separated from the rest. The guy who said they needed a competition instantly folds, saying maybe not. Yunsel says that you move on to the next place if you pass this one test. One of the men walks over towards him, and he raises his hands, and starts inspecting Yunsel's body, and he's taken aback by something, saying that he's completely ass, and he's shocked that he decided to even participate. However, the killing intent that he's releasing is definitely real, and still he can't let him pass. Yunsel says as he thought, all he's learned until now is how to look after corpses, and there's no way he could pass such a test. However, there's no way this will be the end. Some of the people start to get angry, saying that this is too unfair. If physical aptitude is all that determines the 10 demon masters, why even host a competition at all? This is nothing but unfair. Ryanong starts to laugh, saying that your muscles and bones are the most important thing when it comes to learning martial arts, and they chose to host this competition in order to pick those with aptitude from various regions. Yet for them to complain when they can't pass even the most basic of standards is laughable. The guy says that they should at least get an opportunity, and Ryanong stares at him as a lightning aura starts to emanate from his eye, and he tells him not to worry because in the second trial he will pick those that can learn martial arts well despite having poor physical aptitude. Also, the second trial will commence immediately. Starting now, they all need to fight each other, and focus on surviving until only one of them is left alive. The contestants say that they're all on the same side though, and nobody wants to make the first move, but the guy who was just yapping sighs, saying if that's the case, no matter what happens this is good for him. If it means he has to kill someone, he looks behind, spotting Yunsel and a woman, saying that they'll be the easiest targets. He grabs his spear, and charges straight at them. He gets close enough, and throws it towards them, saying to die, and it starts flying straight towards Yunsel. It stabs through the girl, and he says that this is the day he can finally kill her, as we learn that she's called the Red Dragon, and his name is Wei Wuncheng. She falls down onto the floor, and Yunsel stares, and people start freaking out because she's actually dead. Yunsel says that the attack avoided the ribs, and struck only the heart. While Wuncheng's frame is weak, his reflexes and agility are sharp. Wuncheng says if there's anyone else who would like to fight them to step right up, as he will take care of them all. Ryanong says he acts decisively, but lacks common sense, and as expected this place is full of worthless fools. One of the assistants agrees that in battles like this if you show yourself as a threat, then you're bound to become a target, but still this should stir the others into motion. Yunsel takes some steps back while people are freaking out on what to do. People grow impatient, and start killing each other. Some guy starts trying to step back, but gets stabbed in the side. Ryanong says that the younger ones who aren't used to death are all completely helpless now, as it's an all-out massacre. Some people are completely panicked, while others are engaged in duels. Those who are not going to make it will have their senses paralyzed when faced with their potential end. Something then catches his eye, and he seems impressed. One of the assistants looks over, realizing who he's talking about, and Ryanong says that it seems that not all of them are fools after all. It's Yunsel and another man leaning up against a wall. As people continuously die, Yunsel says they're nothing but a bunch of fools. They've lost themselves to the fear of death. Ryanong's command was to survive until only one is left standing. That means the important thing is not killing, but surviving. He can guarantee survival if he thinks rationally, and acts coldly, and he will make sure that he lives no matter what. He starts analyzing one of the bodies, and somebody else is still fighting with some kind of ranged weapon. They spot Yunsel, saying that at a glance he looks pathetic, and he must have been hiding in the shadows all this time. Yunsel is just inspecting what killed the guy, and he says that they felt a swift swordplay, and a flurry unleashed with a slender sword. They launch their attack at Yunsel while he's distracted, and as it flies straight to him he narrowly dodges as it crushes the box he's been carrying. Clothes start to fall out of it, and they laugh at him, asking what the box is for, and if he's some kind of peddler of temple relics. Yunsel, staring down at the clothes, flashes back to when he was given a gift for his birthday. It was a pair of clothes and a weapon. He looks up with a very cold gaze, and crouches down close to the blade directly below him, and the person raises their weapon once more, asking if he wants to give it a go. With such a puny sword there's nothing he thinks he can do. He starts spinning his chain weapon, and somebody attacks from behind, slicing him down. It was the guy who was leaning up against the wall with him, and he says there was no need to thank him for saving him, since he is pathetic trash like Yunsel distracting people, it only makes things easier for him. Yunsel, still looking at all of the clothes, hears the guy say that he has good eyes, but it seems like he's never learned martial arts, and he could kill someone like that at any time. Yunsel stares at him, and Ryanong says that boy's holding the extermination sword, and he wonders if he carries the legacy sword of Black Soul. Once said to be the strongest wandering swordsman. The assistant says that his name is Woon Gong, and they say that deep in a secluded valley he's discovered Black Soul's secret manual and sword. He trained only from the manual, so his forms lack polish, and his movements leave many openings, but as of now he is the sole disciple of Black Soul. Though lacking in physical strength he was a strong candidate for the 10 Demon Masters, and he may very well be the one to win. Ryanong says that truth be told he's still just a greenhorn unworthy of the extermination sword's hilt, but at least here it seems there's no one stronger than him. The assistant agrees, saying that unless something truly unexpected occurs, Yunsel is still just looking at all the corpses, analyzing them, while Woon Gong's just fighting person after person until it falls silent. He cleans the blood off his sword, saying that he sees now, but he wasn't expecting him to be the one who managed to survive until the end, as it's only him and Yunsel. He says if he kills him then he too will become a candidate for the 10 Demon Masters, and he tells Yunsel to come at him. Yunsel says that he is the strongest person here, but he's already discovered his weakness. That's because he analyzed the bodies of every person Woon Gong killed. Yunsel slowly starts walking towards, and Woon Gong says that he shall test his skills a little. He charges in with the first attack, and starts attacking all over. We see Yunsel dodging, but it's not enough, as he is continuously being wounded. Woon Gong says that clumsy dodging is all he can do, and it's impressive how he's lasted until now. Ryanong and the assistant say that it looks like he's being helplessly beaten at a glance, but if you look closely he twists his body just enough at the end of each strike to avoid receiving a fatal wound. As he's pushing forward through the attacks, while there's a lot of blood, they're not very deep. The assistant says that there's no way he just learned that by examining the corpses he left behind, And if this is true, his level of observation is astonishing. Yunsel, still staring at him, sighs, saying that his sword technique is pathetic. Even after taking such a barrage of attacks, all he's done is slice his flesh. The assistant says that he's provoking him, and sure, he's evading well, but landing a counterattack is an entirely different matter. With that frail body, a proper strike would be difficult. Woongong says that he was planning to let him live a little longer, but he decided to be arrogant, so since he wants to die so badly, he charges forward, saying that he'll grant that wish then, and Yunsel holds up his weapon, saying that this is the one and only chance that he will have to win. He realized something after examining the corpses of the people he killed. His finishing strike always aimed for the opponent's vitals, specifically the heart and the head. When he harbors murderous intent, his sword inevitably heads towards the opponent's upper body. If that's the case, all he has to do is dodge that, as we see him do exactly that. Woongong is caught off guard, but Yunsel is staring straight up at where he needs to attack, and he's aiming for Woongong's throat. He recalls Jan Yang telling him that the Tianzu acupoint is difficult to train to be tough even for a martial master, so if a child strikes it with full strength, even an adult could faint instantly, and Yunsel starts attacking straight for it. Blood begins pouring out. We see he actually stabbed him straight in the throat where he aimed, and the blood is Woongong's. Woongong starts to fall over straight onto the ground after covering Yunsel in his blood. Yunsel, panting, asks if it's finally over as he looks around. The assistant says that's an unexpected variable. Ryanung says he had expectations since it was the sword art of Black Soul, and he bangs the gong, saying that Yunsel has passed the second trial. We see Yunsel's eyes have gone completely crazy. He hears his grandfather calling out for him over and over, asking where he is. Yunsel, excited, runs after him, saying that he's right over here, but his grandpa says that he can't see him. Yunsel is horrified, as when he turns around it's as if his eyes were gouged out. His grandfather says that he can't see his face at all. This makes him jolt awake in a cold sweat, as he was asleep somewhere. All the other contestants turn and stare at him, and then he hears the sound of an ocean, and he feels it as it looks like they're now on the inside of a ship. He says that it makes sense that he fainted since he lost a lot of blood, and at that point his injuries were grave, but he feels hardly any pain now, and he wonders if it could be that a renowned physician was summoned. But that aside, the people here overall have well-trained bodies, and some faces look very familiar to him, and he wonders if these are the ones who passed the first trial. They start laughing amongst themselves after staring at him, and he says as expected they have very contemptuous gazes. The assistant then tells them it's time to disembark, as they have all arrived at the next trial area, and it is called Hell Island. The boat docks, and the assistant leaps off first, telling the rest to follow. As they start making their way further into the island, he points towards a bunch of caves and a cliff, saying that they will all be sleeping here. They should stash away all their previous weapons and clothes, and come on out after wearing the prepared clothes and swords, and they are free to choose a cave that suits their liking. Yunsel looks around, and starts walking over. He is then seen passing by a bunch of people, saying that they thought it would be humid, but it's pretty comfortable inside. A woman and man are arguing over who should get the spot, and another man tells them not to fight, as there are plenty of nice ones. Yunsel says these people have no clue what happened in the second trial, and they have all lowered their guards. Among the ones who passed the first trial, many seem to be wearing expensive clothes, so maybe they are all of prestigious clans. He sees the second trial was a place where they weeded out people that they could kill. The assistant asks if he hasn't chosen yet, saying that he's been sluggish since earlier, and now is not the time to dilly-dally. He calls him by his name. He says that Yunsel caught his eye because of his stare, but to think he'd actually survive, he wants to know what choice he makes now. He tells him there's not much time, and to choose quickly. Yunsel says that he'll pick this one over here, then we see it leaking out. Some nasty-ass doo-doo water. The assistant says of all places to pick, he chose a place befitting his foul attire, and he's disgusted. He's really a genius. It may seem like a small and dirty cave, but that is merely the entrance. The insides are large enough to train within, and the tiny entrance helps defend against intruders. Most people avoid it after seeing the entrance, but he really gauged everything thoroughly, and he tells them to head inside and get prepared. Yunsel comes back out. The assistant says that he'll explain what they need to do from now on. This Hell Island is a home to 10 martial arts facilities. You can learn one of the 10 demonic sex martial arts in each of the buildings. You may choose to learn them all, or focus on one, and that's all up to them. They have the freedom over their own schedules, and they may sleep, play, learn martial arts, or train alone. They can pretty much do whatever they want. Yunsel says it's so weird. They made the second trial a hellhole. There's no way they would just let them peacefully train. People start talking about what to do first, and start running off. Yunsel says they all seem to be headed toward the same place, the Fire Rain Sword sect. He heard that they were meant to be the most powerful among the demonic sects, and while learning the martial arts would be helpful, that can't be said for him. He hasn't even learned martial arts, though he's fine learning even a not so amazing one, and he knows exactly what he needs to do now. As he walks into the forest, he stumbles upon a little lodge, and he wonders if this is really the right place. It's meant to be the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and they have plummeted so far down that they barely stand among the 10 demon sects, and the only reason they're still up there is because of their history of producing a fair amount of the strongest martial masters of their time. His grandfather told him about them when he was talking about the Murim. He decides that this will be the place, but the ground begins shaking. We see something burrowing towards him, and it pops up out of the ground, and we hear a man asking why he's here, and if he has come here wishing to become one of the 10 demon masters. This is the Wandering Beast Pavilion's secret master, named Saw Wu. He stares at Yunsel, and he's a little taken aback because the dude's goofy, but says it's true, he's come here to learn their martial arts. Wu starts looking him up and down, and laughs, saying that he shouldn't rush to his death and just leave, as he has no intention of teaching martial arts to someone so fragile. Yunsel says he heard that with this martial art, he could gain the power to survive anything, and Wu says that he's surprised he knows about their martial arts that are soon to be biting the dust, but even the greatest of geniuses have trouble learning their martial arts, as it will begin by modifying his body, and in his state he'll die within a day. If he understands this, he should get lost then. Yunsel starts bowing, and Wu asks what he's doing. Yunsel says that since he agreed to teach him, there's no way he would not be able to pay respects to his new master. Wu says he's crazy, but sighs, saying that he'll teach him anyway, but he shouldn't get confused. He is only going to teach him because he was ordered to. As he comes out of the ground, he introduces himself once more, saying that he should call him Master Saw from now on. Yunsel tells him his name, and Wu says no, he is just trainee number 1, and that they can get started right away. He taps under Yunsel's eyes, and immediately he starts to lose vision, and they go completely black. He says he can't see anything. Wu tells him not to worry, as he only sealed his vision temporarily using the secret techniques of the Wandering Night Pavilion, and he's not sure if this is the same pavilion, bad translation, or what. He says it's a necessary step to learn the Wandering Beast path, and it's a basic martial technique of the Wandering Night Pavilion, and it will heighten all of his senses and give him reflexes like that of a beast. Their martial arts are unlike those of others, and they become very different depending on the person learning them. That is why mastering the Wandering Beast path is hard. However, if he does master it, as he sees a white figure of Wu, Wu tells him he'll have the senses of a wandering beast. Most people die before they get to that point though. He gets close to Yunsel, while saying that he should get used to the lack of vision for about an hour, as he will come back then. Some time passes, and Yunsel says that he thought his other senses were supposed to become sharper after he lost his vision, but it doesn't really feel that way at all. He said that he would come back in an hour, but that's too long, and he needs to adjust as quickly as possible. He starts crawling, and then walking, and falling back to the ground over and over. He says countless martial artists are competing against each other trying to become one of the 10 demon masters. If he was ambushed in this situation, there's no telling what someone could do to him. He gets paranoid that someone is behind him, and trips over his own feet, falling onto the floor. He says he understands. With his vision gone, his balance is of utmost importance now. We see it's been way longer than an hour, and some time later Wu comes out of the pavilion, saying that he bet that Yunsel's lost right now, but he's surprised to see Yunsel leaping around. He says that's pretty unique. Most trainees wait until their other senses come back when they lose their vision, and Yunsel's moving around wildly by imagining a fake enemy. This is what has helped him, as Yunsel is running forward very quickly. He even vaults over a rock, and he lands the vault perfectly. Wu says this must be how he adjusted so quickly, and that he has gotten used to it, and now it's time for him to try evading his sword. As he unsheathes his blade, he swings forward. We don't get to see what happens, but we get a 3-day time skip of Yunsel falling into the mud. We see him covered in dirt. Wu thrusts forward with his hilt once more, hitting Yunsel on the chest. He says this is the 3rd day, and it's about time Yunsel started questioning his training methods, but he's just accepting it. We see him looking very fatigued. Wu asks why he's not asking him anything, saying surely he's curious about how to avoid the attacks or the theory of it all. Yunsel says he was told that the essence of the pavilion's martial arts is reaching enlightenment themselves, and he just thought that there would be a reason behind what he is doing. Wu is surprised that it was so easy to convince him, but says that he's right, and that it's time for them to keep going as he charges forward once more. Yunsel then starts to get some kind of sensation, and he says that he can actually feel it now, rather he can see the sword's path. As it starts flying in, he says that's all he can do, and that doesn't allow him to actually dodge it. He then decides to block the attack with his sword instead, saying that this is the only path he has forward, and sparks begin flying. He grits his teeth, and Wu is just in disbelief. He asks if he really just blocked the silent attack only after 3 days. Later Yunsel gets sent flying backwards, and Wu throws him a drink, telling him to chug it, and Yunsel thanks him and starts drinking it. He says this isn't actually water, and he suddenly has energy surging through him as it feels like the blood that left his body is coming back. He wonders what this is. Wu says that it's the ultimate spring spiritual water that he had saved all of his life, and he doesn't think that it would be a waste like this, as he has just met a once-in-a-lifetime genius who he has been waiting for his entire life. They continue training, and we see Yunsel blocking his attacks. It actually looks like he's improved so much. Wu smiles, telling him to try receiving this attack once more, and he swings. Yunsel dodges, and Wu tells him that's not good enough, as he instantly gets behind him. Yunsel turns, and I'm not sure if he blocked the attack with his sword or if his master hit it with his hilt. Yunsel asks if he stopped attacking. Wu laughs, saying to think what he was looking for was just in front of him this whole time. Yunsel's vision starts to come back, and he says that he can see again. Wu tells him that he should forget about becoming something like one of the 10 demon masters, and become one of his official disciples in the pavilion instead. If he does that, he'll make him one of the top 10 strongest martial masters of the demonic faction within 10 years. Yunsel says based on what he's seen so far, he doesn't think he's lying about that, but it's clear that his grandfather's murderer is highly skilled, and the situation isn't something he can be satisfied with just by learning these martial arts. He resolves himself, saying that he will become a demon master instead. Wu is surprised, but says that he should forget it. If he's doing that so he can learn the 10 demonic sect martial arts, that's impossible even for someone like the Grand Heavenly Demon Emperor who's talented enough to create martial arts of his own. Every martial art is suited for a certain physique and type of energy. No matter how talented one is, they can only learn up to 2 or 3 types of martial arts. Learning one martial art single-mindedly is the shortcut to becoming the strongest in the demonic faction. Yunsel says that he's sorry, but adamant on this. Wu wonders if there's a way to change his mind, and then sighs, saying that it's fine, and he'll teach him a different martial art now. Yunsel says that he's only learned the basics thus far. Wu says that the martial arts of his pavilion are not just transmitted through steps or theory. In reality, as he swings really fast, Yunsel still manages to block it with pure instinct. Wu tells him that he's already been practicing the basics, and Yunsel says he understands. All those sword strikes he unleashed at him were actually formed of the wild beast path. Yunsel thanks him, and Wu says there's no need for thanks. As he said, it was merely the order of the demon palace. Yunsel says he even gave him an elixir, and he'll never forget his grace. Wu tells him to forget it. Yunsel asks why, and Wu tells him that's just how the pavilion is, favors or grudges, if you can forget them, it's always the best choice. Yunsel says if that's the case, then he'll be on his way. He heads into the forest. Wu asks where such a hidden dragon came from, saying that a bloody storm will sweep through Hell Island soon. Yunsel says he wonders if it's because he's learned the wild beast path, as he senses far too much now. Even when doing nothing, the sheer awareness is exhausting. He won't be able to rest properly like this, and he needs to learn to control it. From now on, he'll suppress his senses as much as possible, like stopping a water droplet from floating. As he focuses on it, it seems as if his senses get dull, and he says this should be enough. He opens a map, saying that next he needs to figure out where he wants to go. The demon palace wouldn't keep people on Hell Island just to train them endlessly, and time may already be running out. If that's the case, he has no other choice. He asks to go to the demonic sect founded to rival the great heavenly demon emperor 700 years ago. The Fire Rain Sword Emperor, Jek-Hoon, is the strongest sect of the 10 demonic sects, which is his only option. He heads straight there, and stands before the door, saying compared to the Beast Pavilion this is like a palace. He knocks on the door, and we see the assistant asking who it is, only to spot Yunsel. Yunsel says he has come to learn the martial arts of the Fire Rain Sword sect. The assistant says to follow him, and says that the sword arts here are the most expansive of all the demonic martial arts, and the most time-consuming. Those who entered earlier have already completed the elementary trial, and moved on to the intermediate, asking if there's a reason he's only come here after half a month. Yunsel says he was learning at the Beast Pavilion, and the assistant says surely he didn't learn the wild beast path in that time frame. Yunsel says he did though. The assistant says that he knows he's a genius, but there's no way he did that in half a month. What most likely happened is that Wu was annoyed, and simply dismissed him quickly, but there's no helping it. He introduces himself as Jingok, the one responsible for the beginner trial. He asks if he really intends to learn the fire rain sword art, as it may still be better for him to head to another trial. Yunsel says he appreciates his concern, but he intends to learn the sword arts of the fire rain sword sect. Jingok says if that's the case, and he stomps the floor, sending out a shockwave. A scroll then falls from the ceiling, and he says this is the introductory form and practical method, the 13 forms, and he should study and train himself. Yunsel stares at it, confused, asking how he's supposed to do that. Jingok wonders if he's trying to say that he doesn't know how to read a sword manual. Yunsel says that he really doesn't, because up until now he's never learned swordsmanship at all before coming here. Jingok can't believe what he just heard, and wonders if he's lying. Jingok asks if he truly hasn't learned swordsmanship in his entire life, and Yunsel says that it's true. Jingok says that it makes sense, and it was recorded that he didn't use a specific sword technique at all. But still, to not be able to even do the most basic of basics is confusing. On the other hand, considering his observational skills and reactions at the second trial and the insight he had back when he was choosing the cave dorm, if he was a blank canvas that means that if he's properly taught he'll have unprecedented outcomes. Jingok says that even if he can't see sword steps he can surely read, write, and he starts reading it out. It says, full body relaxation, softly flowing into one. It means to relax and use your body flexibly when performing swordsmanship, and he needs to especially relax his core and waist. Yunsel asks if it's like this and does a demonstration, and Jingok says that he can't believe that he has to teach the basics while trying to decide one of the 10 demon masters. He tells him to stand properly, and when his body is tense his core is as well. He needs to control his mind and relax it, and softly flow into one. Yunsel does so instantly, and Jingok asks if he understood it as soon as he spoke. He says that his posture is sufficient enough, and he'll teach him the fire rain 13 forms immediately. They start going through it over and over, and Jingok is there to guide his progress, and even gives him a thumbs up. Yunsel now starts weaving them together one after the other, and looks like he's finally got the basics fully down. Jingok says that it's exactly like he thought, and that this boy is extremely talented. He tells him to imagine that there's an enemy in front of him, and use the 13 forms. Yunsel asks if it can be anyone, and Jingok says yes, and that's the exam in order to get to the intermediate chamber. It's to see the sword intent contained in his basic moves. Yunsel says the opportunity came quicker than he thought, and he needs to prove himself here. He widens his stance, saying that he needs to imagine an enemy that he must defeat, and he locks in as he unsheathes his blade. He uses the first technique of the 13 forms called Peerless Wind, and Jingok looks taken aback as Yunsel then prepares the second one and he flows into the third technique called Foggy Drifting Clouds. Jingok asks if that's really the fire rain 13 forms, as the foggy drifting clouds is usually a sword technique that is soft and spirited and it should be performed akin to how clouds drift and fog spreads, but the way he's using it is strangely sharp and he wonders if he's consciously changing it. To change the basic moves of a sword technique that has been passed down for generations is only possible for a grandmaster, and those altered sword moves are filled with killing intent as if he's facing the enemy of his master or parents. To think that the swordsmanship of the fire rain sword sect, which is considered the orthodox path even among the sword paths, could be changed like this makes Jingok wonder what kind of life this kid has lived. Yunsel says this is strange, and the flow at his fingertips is changing the sword paths as it pleases. He asks if the wild beast path is the reason, and the more he uses the fire rain 13 forms the more the wild beast path's senses sharpen. He wants to fuse the two completely, and if he does it will be a completely different swordsmanship style, and not the fire rain 13 forms. He needs to hurry and return to the original sword basics. Then we see him freeze as the imaginary enemy he was fighting starts to change its shape into the enemy who killed his grandfather. His heart starts to beat crazy fast, and he grits his teeth and leaps forward using the 7th technique of the 13 forms called Overturning 4 Cs, and he swings down. His imaginary enemy sidesteps, and Yunsel says that he's fast. He then continues blow after blow, but not a single one is landing. He says that he's faster than anyone he's fought until now. His opponent then starts to unsheath their blade and thrust straight towards Yunsel's head, and Yunsel narrowly dodges it saying that he can't give him any space to dodge, and he used all the technique he has left in a single go. He raises his sword up behind him, and says that he has to pour it all out, and he starts rapid firing attack after attack. His master's enemy smiles and raises their blade, swinging upwards and cutting off both Yunsel's arms, severing them and leaving him completely helpless. Yunsel begins to scream, and sweat pours onto the floor as we see him completely engrossed in his spiritual fight. He drops his sword, and Jingok says in the end he lost, however with this he passed. What's tested in the elementary chamber is his understanding of the sword and his execution of the 13 forms in a real fight. He kicks his blade up into the air and catches it, saying that he definitely proved that his fire rain 13 forms were incredible, and he should continue to the intermediate chamber. Yunsel says that it must have been annoying for him to teach someone who knew nothing about swordsmanship, but he taught and showed everything one by one, and Yunsel thanks him with a respectful bow. Jingok says that he should continue working even harder moving forward, and also that his sword has some especially strong killing intent and he should be careful not to be shaken by it. Yunsel looks as if he's trying to keep that in mind and bows once more before heading to the intermediate chamber, and Jingok says that he gets it now. It was true that he had truly learned the wild beast path in just a couple weeks, and perhaps it's because his learning speed is fast, and he's moving on to the intermediate chamber way quicker than expected. He enters the room, and at first he wasn't sure whether he could even make it, but now he is certain. The instructor at the intermediate chamber will be obsessed with Yunsel by the end of it. The instructor says he doesn't know who he is, and all the spots are filled so he can piss off. His name is Chun Woongong. Woongong looks over at him, saying that he seems to have passed only the elementary chamber so far, and for it to take him so long to just learn the 13 forms, he's just going to be wasting his time learning here. Yunsel says that he was late because he spent 2 weeks at the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Woongong asks if it's really not because he was just late learning the elementary teachings. He says that he must have just escaped learning the wild beast path midway, and says that since he's passed the chambers, he may as well take a seat, but he doesn't know how well he will follow. He starts explaining the sword movements to them, saying that it's made of rapid ones, and if you are not skilled enough with the sword, you will end up hurting yourself. It's a martial art that is difficult to use in real combat, just like the fire rain in the 13 forms. So the thundering sword is just a basic martial art they must learn in the process, and their main focus point will not be on winning, rather the aim will be to sharpen their prowess with the sword. He tells somebody named Hansung to step forward and select an opponent. He asks if he can pick anyone, and Woongong says yes. He points down at Yunsel, saying that he'll pick him then. Woongong tries to tell him to pick somebody else, but Hansung says that he said he could pick anyone. Woongong gets a little annoyed, asking how he's meant to test his sword against someone who has just finished the elementary chamber, and to pick someone else, but Yunsel says that he's fine with it. Woongong says that he must have misheard him, and Yunsel says that he didn't, and that he'll duel him now. As he learned how to use the sword from instructor Jingok inside of the elementary trial, so if he puts his sword to the test against others, he believes it'll be easier to learn. Woongong gets annoyed, thinking that he just has an ego, but sighs, saying that it's his choice, as knowing his own abilities is a skill that every martial artist must have, and he hopes that he's skilled enough to reach the advanced chamber. Hansung thinks this is a stroke of luck, saying it would have been hard to be noticed among such geniuses, but if he just kills him, he'll be able to solidify his standing. They bow to one another, and Hansung tells him that he has guts, but he needs more than that to survive, in the Murim. Woongong tells them to begin, and Hansung charges forward first. He swings, but Yunsel ducks underneath it. He then goes for a follow-up, saying that wasn't bad, and swings down. Yunsel blocks the attack, and is surprised by something, but Hansung says that based on just how much he's struggling now, he really is a complete beginner. He laughs, saying that he'll show him the thundering sword. He starts to demonstrate it, launching the attacks towards Yunsel while laughing. He continues laughing until it suddenly starts to fall off, as he sees that Yunsel is dodging every attack. In a panic, he launches more, and Woongong watches, saying that Hansung isn't skilled with the sword at all. On the other hand, Yunsel is not dodging with speed, it's as if he's predicting the moves, saying there's no way he has learned the wild beast path. Although it is the elementary martial art of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, it's extremely difficult to learn and perform, which can only be successfully learned by the most experienced of martial masters. Even if he truly is a genius gifted by the heavens, he could not have learned it in just 2 weeks. He stomps his foot, saying that only dodging is making it hard to judge, and the duel is not to test reflexes, but to test your skill with a sword. Yunsel widens his stance, and readies himself. And just like he was doing with Jingok, he swings forward, starting out with the 13 forms. The other kids recognize it as well, and how different it is. Hansung's the only one who doesn't see it, as he starts mocking him, but the other students ask if he's really just blind. Hansung says that he could have dodged this with his eyes closed, but he's narrowly avoiding them, and we see it cut some of his hair. He asks if this is the same 13 forms that he had learned, and if maybe he was just hiding his skills all along, using a variant of the 13 forms to mock him. All he's been doing is dodging. and he wonders if maybe he did this on purpose, so he could just go to the advanced chamber immediately. And at this rate, things are not looking good for him because the rest are going to think he's weak. He grits his teeth, saying that he'll be the one to go to the advanced chamber, and starts using a new sword technique called the Asura sword style. He launches out an attack called the blood-shattering strike, and Woongong recognizes it, saying that he did not say they must only use the fire rain sword. But Yunsel still is not falling prey to any of the attacks, and it might just be that he's actually learned the wild beast path. Hansung continues saying that he dodged as well, but tells him this is his end. Woongong recognizes the technique that he's using as Hansung loops into the air, and a red trail follows his blade, and it's called the bloody windwarding moon. Yunsel slightly bends his wrist, and something happens that surprised everybody, even Woongong, as he uses the 13th form of the technique, and stabs Hansung straight through the chest. Hansung begins vomiting blood before falling onto the floor. Yunsel looks down at him, and the other students just look horrified, asking if he just died. Yunsel walks over, putting his sword back up, and Woongong looks down at the kid, saying that he's definitely dead, and he got hit precisely in the throat. He asks Yunsel if he was always the disciple of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and Yunsel says no. When Woongong asks if he's meant to believe that he learned it in just 2 weeks, Yunsel tells him that he only learned the basics. Woongong laughs at him, asking if his master taught him how to lie as well. Yunsel goes to explain it, but Woongong says he doesn't need excuses, and to clean this up immediately. The other students are just freaking out, saying that he committed murder during a normal sparring session, and that he should be punished for it. Woongong reminds them that just because the name says that it is a martial chamber, it does not mean that it actually is one. He reminds them that they are on Hell Island, and if they use the techniques meant to kill, they need to be prepared for death themselves, and that they will continue the trial. A lot of students keep fighting. After a bit, Woongong goes to the students and tells them that they've all failed, and they can immediately go find another chamber to take them in. They ask if they don't get any more chances, and he says they don't. They probably pass the beginning trials because they are fit, but in order to learn the fire rain sword they need potential and talent, as well as blood, sweat, and tears to surpass their own limits, and they failed because they lack these qualities, and now to piss off. After the students leave, Woongong sees that only Yunsel is remaining. He asks why he is not going, and Yunsel asks if he has too. Woongong says yes, and he won the duel and passed the trial, so he should move on to the advanced one now. Yunsel says that if he has to advance higher he'd rather stay here. Woongong asks why, and Yunsel says that the only sword technique he learned was the fire rain 13 forms, and he has yet to learn anything in the intermediate chamber. Woongong tells him that he learned the wild beast path and saw right through the Asura sword style technique, and he wants to tell him that he didn't learn anything. Yunsel says that he didn't. Woongong says that he'll teach him then, and he'll teach him the thundering sword that continues on to the 13 forms he's already learned. However, he hates when people make an attempt to play little tricks just to try and make an impression, and if he sees that he's learned any other sword technique than the fire rain 13 forms, he will behead him immediately. 4 days later we see him making a pained and annoyed face, and he says that he checked in all manners possible in the last 4 days, but he has basically zero fundamentals when it comes to sword techniques, and he really was someone who would just begin learning. His determination and concentration are really impressive, and Woongong asks if he'll die if he doesn't learn martial arts. Yunsel is now actually displaying the thundering sword, and Woongong tells him to stop, saying that he can stop now as it seems that he's practiced the principles of the fire rain thundering sword. Yunsel asks why, and he tells him that the fire rain thundering sword is a technique that quickly twists your body around so that you can serialize the moves, and all the moves have him swing the sword around him, and it's not really something that can be used in real battle, but he's trying to use all techniques in real life as if he's trying to kill someone. Yunsel says that's the point of sword techniques though. Woongong tells him that you need murderous intent for demonic martial arts, and in order to reach a higher realm of martial prowess the fire rain sword abandons the killing aspect, and the murderous intent in his mind will only come to harm him if he can't get rid of it. Yunsel says he's saying the same thing Jingok did, and Woongong says that in the past, as well as now, he's also lived with murderous intent in his heart and slayed all that stood in his way, but because of that he lost both honor and pride, and his martial prowess fell. It may feel like these techniques meant to kill will bring his prowess to a higher realm, but in reality it's more like an obstacle that stands in the unending path of swordsmanship, so he needs to throw it away. He recalls Jan Yong telling him that those who wield the sword have a past stained with despair and misfortunes, and that is why people of Miram hate to talk about their past. Yunsel, confused, asks why he's telling him all this, and Woongong says that he told him already that he used to live with murder in his heart. He asks for Yunsel's name, and Yunsel tells him. Woongong says that he actually heard about him from Jingok, and how he was the only one to survive the second trial, but he has a big problem. Yunsel asks what it is, and Woongong tells him that he lacks the basics of martial arts, and his competitors have learned them ever since they were young. If he is to begin learning the technique in the advanced chamber, the gap will only widen, so he needs to quickly master the basics so that he has the fundamental foundation to build upon the fire rain sword, and from now on he will teach him the unrivaled lightning and thunder that he personally created. He has destroyed all nerve endings in his fingers because he failed while trying to master it, and that's how dangerous it is. If things go wrong, he might lose control over his entire arm, and he wouldn't be able to move on to the advanced chamber and instead would end up as a cripple, asking if he's okay with that. Yunsel says that his arms for the sake of revenge are a small price to pay, as he'll give up anything for it. We get a whole 1 month time skip, and Yunsel says that the instructor said he learned fast, but Yunsel says it took longer than he expected. He heads into the advanced chamber, and says that it really emits a different aura, and he senses a different ferocity within all the trainees. Nobody's looking at him with disdain. It must be because he killed Han Sung. Cleaning a corpse is a job that's looked down upon, and yet killing people with a sword is a job that receives praise, and he thinks it's so backwards. The instructor says that he's heard of him, and he thought he was just about to begin the lesson so he could take a seat. He says there is a new trainee. He will explain the central reading of the fire rain sword, and the 7 teachings. He starts explaining it all, and is very yappy. Yunsel says that he sees, and he never would have been able to understand this if he didn't learn the advanced martial arts from the intermediate chamber. The teacher says that he wants to end the verbal teachings here today, and tells Yunsel to follow him. Yunsel wonders what's up, and follows him outside. The teacher explains that there is a realm where one without a sword can defeat one with a sword. To be exact, such a person no longer has a need for a sword in order to form sword arts. He takes some leaves off the nearby tree, and stiffens them while pointing at Yunsel. He says he wants to ask a hypothetical. Let's say he was attacked suddenly, like just now, and he is lacking a sword. How will he respond with sword martial arts? While he was in the intermediate chamber with the trainees, they learned the Shining Mystique, the first form of the fire rain sword, and now they are discussing theory. If he cannot understand what he is asking, then he will not teach him, and he should answer carefully. Yunsel says if there is no sword in his hand, then he has no other choice but to use the opponent's sword. As he grabs for the leaves, the teacher instantly gets behind him, telling him that was way too hasty of a choice. Yunsel says that was impossible, and asks when he got behind him in the first place. He tries again, and says that he can't even predict how he'll dodge. He didn't expect to be able to catch it in the first place, and to think that he can't even follow his movements. If he doesn't impress him here, he won't be able to remain in the advanced chamber. So he needs to use the wild beast path to its fullest potential, and read the flow of his direction. As he goes after him this time, he says even if it's only once. As he stretches his hand out towards the leaves, he finally manages to grab onto them before getting sent flying backwards because of the instructor. He lands on the ground, and starts to get back up. As the instructor puts his hand on his shoulder, he starts laughing, and says that he passes. Yunsel says that he couldn't even touch him, so how did he pass? The instructor says that he will learn the Shining Mystique starting tomorrow, and it should come earlier than all the others. Yunsel says he understands, and starts to leave. The instructor holds up his leaves and sees that some of them are falling off, and he looks impressed. He says that a wolf cub is still a wolf in the end, and smirks, saying that he has high expectations for him. As Yunsel is heading back, he says since that's it for today's lesson he can rest, or maybe he should patrol instead, because if he thinks about what happened at the second trial, who knows when a fight will break out here. He then senses multiple presences behind him, and asks how many there are. He starts counting them, and as they begin coming out of the woodwork, he says there are a total of 5. One of them says that he's been acting out of place ever since the intermediate chamber, and they'll teach him a lesson. The 5 of them claim to be geniuses among geniuses, and are known as the 5 peak swords, so he'd better prepare himself. Yunsel realizes that it's not just 5, and there's actually one more person. He starts to prepare himself. The students yell, and ask if he's really trying to fight back, before we see one of them spit out blood as somebody attacks him from the back, and he falls to the floor, and they all look instantly full of fear. It is another student, named Seo Jinya, and he tells Yunsel that they need to talk right now. The other students ask why he's here. Jinya says that he has no business with them, so he'll let them leave. They start running off. Yunsel says he can tell that he's strong. Jinya calls them cowards, before looking back at Yunsel, while saying that he wants to just ask him directly. He points his sword at him asking whose side he's on. Before then, We are taken back to the instructor, and he says that they have all learned the first technique. However, they can only say that they have mastered it when they have made it their own. When he thinks it's about time, he takes a look at the fire raindrops they have created. He tells Yunsel to try it out. Yunsel stands up and sighs. He's visualizing the enemy in front of him. He starts to display the first form, slicing all over with the intent to kill. When he finishes, a strong gust of wind pushes around the area. We see all of his sword marks on the floor. The instructor says that it's very grounded and precise, and he has made it something filled with murderous intent. The instructor says that he may return to his spot. He calls up the next, which is Jinya. Yunsel watches him walk by, and he instantly realizes that Jinya is strong. As soon as he starts to release his sword, he shows off a technique that would have countered his first technique of the fire rain sword, as if he were warning him. Yunsel asks him what he means by whose side he's on, and Jinya tells him not to play dumb. He knows that not everyone is here because they want to become one of the 10 demon masters. Yunsel also says that now that he thinks about it, being able to learn the martial arts of the 10 demonic sects alone is an amazing opportunity, but the actual process of participating was terribly executed. This amazing opportunity is simultaneously a trap to catch something greater. Yunsel asks if there is a spy, and Jinya says, based on his tone and face, he's not lying. He sighs, saying that it's not him, and he wanted to have some fun, but Yunsel should stop acting out of line from now on. If he keeps getting on his nerves, he'll kill him as well. He leaves. Yunsel says that it looks like there is a lot more going on under the surface than he expected, but it makes sense, as he had been focusing solely on learning the Beast Pavilion arts, and the Fire Rain Sword sect arts, so he didn't assume that he needed to pay any mind to it. Whether it's a spy or a demonic martial artist, it doesn't change the fact that they are an opponent he must fight, and that it will begin soon. A bird catches a rat and flies up high over one of the pavilions. The instructor says today marks the end of the training, and he's sure that a lot of them felt that learning the laws was boring. However, martial masters who have experienced countless real battles also take this time to study the laws and principles of martial arts. To know martial arts does not mean you can act it out, and being able to act it out does not mean that you know the martial arts in question. He believes that the analysis of the laws he has taught them will serve as the stepping stones in their journey across the Murim, and he wishes them good luck. A bell then begins ringing across the entire island, and the students wonder what's going on. The instructor says it's time to go to the stone mountain in the center of the island. They all head there, and we see Ryanong once more. The assistant tells him everybody is here, and Yunsel realizes what's going on. Ryanong says now they can finally begin the third trial. Ryanong says that they should eliminate each other until only 10 of them are left, asking if they understand. Some of the cadets look scared, but the others look like they expected this. He says they may run or hide, it's up to them, but they cannot do that forever. As time passes, they will restrict the areas in which they may stay, and those that reside in restricted areas will be slain by the killer demons. Yunsel says that he can sense their killing intent from here. Jinya says that they are incredible martial artists. One of the students asks if they are not allowed to attack the killer demons, and Ryanong laughs, saying that it's good to see candidates with such high goals, and of course they may fight them, and if they are able to they may even kill them. Anyone who kills a killer demon will immediately become one of the 10 demon masters. Students realize that it's harder to kill one of them than it would be to kill everybody else here. Ryanong says they need to remember they may team up or ambush one another, and if they can kill, do so at all costs, as that is the path with which they could become one of the 10 demon masters. Immediately, Yunsel starts making a break for it, saying that he has to go quickly. He drew too much attention up until now, and if he doesn't get out of here immediately there's a chance he will get jumped by a group of people like before, and he needs to go to a safe place. That safe place for him would be the Wandering Beast Pavilion. As he comes to a stop, he says the ground feels different than before, and as he touches it he realizes something. He then hears footsteps, and understands that people are coming. There's 3 students coming straight towards him, and one of them says that someone is trying to kill him, and asks for help, because if he helps he'll pay him back, and Yunsel wonders if it's a trick, but he looks at the guy's wounds saying that they're definitely real, and that 3 of them are coming after him. He wonders if they are a team. He then says that he doesn't want to get involved, but this guy revealing his location wouldn't be optimal. He starts moving the dirt aside, and reveals a hidden area underneath. The attackers finally catch up, and walk over them asking where they went, saying there's no way they escaped. One of them gets pissed, and says he'll kill him for sure, and the other guy says they can't have gone far. They keep going past them, and once the coast is clear they head up under their hiding spot. The other kid starts to sigh, saying that he survived thanks to him. and if it weren't for Yunsel he would have died. Yunsel says this hole isn't just for hiding, and that Wu must have prepared it for him. When he was in the dirt he sensed the wild beast path sensations expanding farther than normal, the sound of them pushing off the dirt, and the sound of them using their swords. Through vibrations he can sense everything as if he was seeing it with his eyes, and that his master must have wanted to teach him this. Regardless, he doesn't know what to do with this other cadet. Yunsel stares at him, and he pulls his hands out from behind his back, and introduces himself as the GM Kil-young from the Blood Sect. Asking if he could get his name, Yunsel ignores him, and the kid begs, saying that he escaped to the forest as soon as the trial started, and he was so scared that they'd follow him. Asking if he could join since he helped him earlier, he feels like he's trustworthy. Yunsel turns his head, and Kil-young follows him, saying that he'll take it as a yes. The screams of the other cadets continue, and Yunsel puts his hand on the ground, saying that they'll have to find a different route, as there's a fight going on here. Kil-young asks if he can really feel the vibrations, saying that's amazing, and wanting to learn how to do it. Yunsel walks away. He then hears somebody shouting that they'll see, and even if he has to sell his soul, they will avenge their fellow disciples. This causes him to freeze up, and he remembers that the entire reason he is here is solely for revenge, and he feels a similar kind of hatred from somebody nearby. Kil-young asks why he stopped walking, and Yunsel says change of plans, they're going to go join in on the battle. They head there, and see somebody looking at them from above. An attack flies in, and Yunsel easily blocks it. The dude asks how he managed to stop his ultimate concealment technique, wondering if he's an assassin. Yunsel lowers his blade, rushes in, and cleaves the dude straight in two, causing him to fall onto the floor. He says the assassin's technique to hide himself would have been annoying had he not learned the wild beast path. Kil-young starts freaking out about the blood, and Yunsel says that they're still fighting, and if he helps the person get rid of the assassins he wonders if he'll tell him what it feels like to have accomplished revenge. 3 assassins start surrounding the man, and we see his arm cut off. They say that it's over, and they should finish this, and leave. One of the assassins says that he'll kill him swiftly out of respect, since he's the last one standing. When they turn, they realize Yunsel's coming in for a surprise attack. They manage to block it, but it catches them off guard, and they start panicking, saying that they didn't know there were more of them. One of the other assassins comes at him from behind, and he says that they will just kill him too. Yunsel dodges underneath the attack, causing him to kill his boy. He realizes he made a mistake, and they both start to attack him together. Yunsel turns, charging in, cutting one of their shoulders, and parrying the other guy's attack. He then runs in at him, and Yunsel's face gets painted with blood as somebody attacks him from behind. Their sword cuts through, cleaving the guy, and we see it was the person that they were all jumping. While panting, the survivor begins laughing, saying that he finally got his revenge, and falls over onto the floor. Kil-young asks if it's over now. Yunsel walks over to the man who is laying down. Kil-young says that he's really skilled, but even so he shouldn't let his guard down. As the man goes for a surprise attack on Yunsel, he blocks it, and looks back at Kil-young, pissed. Kil-young asks how he did this, and Yunsel says it's his fault that he didn't get his question answered. Kil-young asks what he's talking about, and more importantly when he caught on, and Yunsel says he knew from the start. When they were hiding underground, he realized that the man was hiding a bunch of hidden weapons under his clothes, and it was easy to notice, considering how stiffly he moved his spine. The reason he kept him around despite everything was because he was curious to see what he would do. Saying that he thought that observing the way someone tries to deceive another would help him in the future. He grits his teeth out of frustration, saying that's impossible because the acting was perfect, and he throws multiple weapons forward. Yunsel dodges them, saying Korn has better acting. Kil-young admits that though he did feel something when he was following him around, he wonders if Yunsel can predict what moves he's going to make, as he easily dodges every single attack. Yunsel even counters, cutting Kil-young's shoulder. Yunsel says that even if the hidden weapons were the best, it doesn't matter if he gets caught using them. Kil-young, furious, starts charging straight at him while screaming. Yunsel deflects his blade, and instantly defeats him. All Kil-young's blood still flying out everywhere. Yunsel resheathes his blade before his body even hits the ground. He then takes all of the hidden weapons, saying that it was definitely not an easy fight. It would have been dangerous if he hadn't known about the hidden weapons on him ahead of time. Yunsel takes one more look at his face, saying that he had a face full of obsession for life like every dying person he has seen so far. He turns, saying that only one of them was different. He walks over to the guy seeking only revenge. He wonders what it feels like to have successfully gotten it. Once he gets his, maybe he'll smile like this too. As a sign of respect, Yunsel takes the man's sword and carries it along with him. We hear somebody asking from the shadows if that's him. As they vanish, they continue, saying that killing assassins using the basic sword techniques and the fire rain sword sect makes him pretty talented. But, there are many people talented just like him here. Unless he improves, he will not be able to survive on Hell Island. Next day, we see him gassed out as he is being chased by a whole group of people. One of them is even using whips. Yunsel dodges the attacks, but two more fly in, and one of them slices through his back. He says they won't give up, and at this rate he's going to end up dead. He needs to think of a way out. Atop the Hell Mountain Island, Ryanong and the assistants are sitting there. Ryanong asks how things are looking, and the assistant says that 41 out of the 86 trainees are still alive. Ryanong says that for there still to be 41 left after 3 days, means that those left are pretty skilled. It's about time they really tested their skills. He asks for the map. We see one of the whips wrap around his blade. They laugh, saying that he's got him. But, it was intentional as Yunsel is using it as an escape option. He says considering the kind of weapons they have, it's disadvantageous for him to fight in an open field, and first he needs to create some distance. Ryanong says the first area they'll restrict is right here on the map as Yunsel is desperately running, heading towards the Fire Rain sect. That's coincidentally where Ryanong is going to send the very first killer demon. We see blood on the floor as the other students are tracking Yunsel's path. They say that he has to be hiding inside. They start to walk around, saying that they've got him cornered, as no matter how much he runs, he won't be able to escape them. One of them then hears a sound behind, and he turns, narrowly dodging an attack from Yunsel. He says that he never would fall for such a shallow trick. He starts to attack towards him. Yunsel begins evading, blocking the attacks, and even countering. The guy realizes that he can read the path of their sword techniques. But, it's too late because that moment of distraction was all Yunsel needed to slice his throat. He then starts going in for the next guy, but he tries to escape. His whip gets stuck hitting the ceiling, and he realizes that this place is too cramped for him to swing as much as he wants. Of course, Yunsel uses this to his advantage and cuts the man's arm off. While he's screaming, the other guy realizes that he lured them all in here on purpose. Yunsel says now they have no choice but to shorten their attacks if they're fighting in a close range, and that weakens its force, and makes it really predictable. Plus, they're not that skilled. So, he has a chance of defeating them if he fights them one by one. Desperate to finish this, they start to launch another assault, but one of their weapons bounces off the wall straight towards Yunsel. He dodges as it breaks through the nearby wall. It sends him flying in as well. He says that he didn't expect it to bounce off the wall like that, and they go to finish the job. But they bump into something. When they look up, he's asking him what they think they're doing, and if they're really trying to run away. Turns out it is their captain, and they say of course not, they just thought it wouldn't be a good idea to continue fighting in here. But, before they finish their sentences, he cuts off their heads and paints the walls with their blood. And he says that he guesses that's why he shouldn't go around with some losers that haven't even made it to the advanced chamber. Yunsel peeks out looking at all this, asking if he is their leader. He says that he's pretty skilled, and that the sword technique he used earlier is the Fire Rain sword. Yunsel asks once more, and the dude introduces himself as Moonchong, asking for his name. Yunsel doesn't answer, and instead asks if he's their leader, and Moonchong laughs, saying that he doesn't care about the kid of a name that's going to die anyways, and attacks straight towards him. It's too fast for him to react as it wraps around his sword, and even snaps the blade. Moonchong says that the advanced chamber of the Fire Rain sword sect taught them only one technique for defense. Yunsel says this means he knows about the Shining Mystique, but wonders how only he knows that, and if he has some kind of information network he doesn't know of. Moonchong asks why he's thinking so much in a fight, telling him that distractions will just lead to his death. Yunsel dodges the next attack, saying that he's just destroying everything that's in his way, and there's no advantage in fighting it in a closed space with someone like him. He heads out into a more open area, and manages to block an attack that comes out of the darkness. As he slides across the floor, he changes the grip on his blade as Moonchong tells him he's disappointed, saying that he is no match for him with skills like that. He attacks towards him once more, but uses the walls intentionally for his whip to bounce around. They start flying all around him, creating some kind of a net around Yunsel. Moonchong laughs, saying that he will soon kill him, and while Yunsel can block his attacks using the Shining Mystique, he can't put enough force into it to stop it. What he needs to do right now is to use the destructive force strong enough to cut through steel. Moonchong realizes something's going on inside, and laughs while shrugging it off, saying that this is a final struggle, and that the Shining Mystique won't be enough as his whip begins to crack. He sees the lightning coming out from the inside. Moonchong wonders what's going on as Yunsel actually manages to break through, sending the whip fragments flying everywhere. It is the unrivaled lightning and thunder that Woongong had taught him. As Moonchong no longer has a weapon, Yunsel charges in while he's defenseless and slices straight through him. Before Moonchong can even realize what happened, he splits into two and falls to the floor. Yunsel is glad that his gamble paid off. As the life leaves Moonchong's eyes, Yunsel stands back up panting, saying that while the technique possesses a powerful force, it's way too advanced for him. As he starts coughing up blood, he says that he can't use it freely at his level, and he's glad that he won, but it took too much of his time. But, the region restrictions will also change soon, so he needs to get a move on. He then senses killing intent, and a shiver runs down his spine as he turns around, and what he sees is one of the killer demons, and he wonders why he's already here so fast. Yunsel wonders if maybe the zone became restricted while he was fighting, but he didn't end up here because he ran away from combat. If he peacefully steps out of the restricted area, maybe it won't spark a move. He tests it, and the killer demon doesn't move at all. Yunsel says since he's not responding, he must mean that he can leave. Yunsel starts to run past him before he senses a crazy killing intent coming from the demon. As if a giant serpent was coming straight for him, he turns, and feels his head being cut off. As that sensation is lingering through his body, he narrowly dodges the attack. He says that he couldn't even sense his presence as he swung, and if it weren't for the wild beast path, he definitely would have died. He then instantly turns back towards the killer demon, and points his blade at him. He says he shouldn't be fooled by his calm demeanor, and if he tries to make a move, he'll attack there first. He recalls Wu saying that when you observe a carnivore hunting an herbivore, the carnivore moves faster than the herbivore, yet the herbivore isn't caught easily, asking if he knows why. Yunsel says that it's because herbivores move in a zigzag. Wu says that's correct, carnivores can't hunt such herbivores easily, and nevertheless, the apex predators always succeed in their hunt, and that is because they attack according to the moment their prey makes its move. Yunsel asks how he must face them, and Wu says that he said they attack according to the timing, asking what he thinks he has to do now. Yunsel says that if this is the case, there's one option left. He takes a deep breath, and lets out a scream, saying that he needs to make his movements completely unpredictable as he runs straight past the killer demon. The killer demon draws their blade, impressed, and starts following Yunsel as he's making a zigzag pattern just like the herbivore would. He says a predictable zigzag motion is the first thing he should do. The killer demon gets in front of him, and Yunsel rolls out from the attack. He says next is to dodge the expected attacks with the wild beast path. And finally, he has to make an opening by using unpredictable movements. He says this, but when he looks up, the killer demon's pointing their blade directly at his throat, and he realizes that he's too late. They then retract their blade, only leaving a tiny mark on his throat. Yunsel asks why he stopped, and if maybe he's made it back to the actual area. He says that he could barely give his all to dodge, and despite his efforts, he wasn't able to make a single opening. This is what a martial master is like. He was nothing but a frog in a well. He runs as far as he can, and says that the killer demon's martial arts were at a level he couldn't even gauge, and their skills were on a whole new level, and his grandfather's killer undoubtedly has the skills to match. So he needs to surpass that prowess if he wants revenge. We see a man cleaning his blade, asking if he's Yunsel, as he's been looking for him for some time now, and he heard that he learned the wild beast path. Yunsel says he talks as if he knows him, and that the other dude did as well, which means that they have shared his information. The dude sits up, saying his name, but instead stops, saying that there's no need telling somebody who's going to die. He charges straight at Yunsel, and Yunsel grits his teeth before sidestepping the attack. The man says he's incredible as he predicted his trajectory with just his beast-like senses, and he's sure he'll become one of the 10 demon masters in the future, which is why he'll uproot him now while he's still a demon seedling. He starts attacking all over, and Yunsel says that his flow has completely changed, and he understands not only that he's a demon, but he wonders what he means by demon seedling. He recalls Genia looking for a spy, wondering if this man could be the one. While he's distracted, he gets attacked from above, and says that he needs to stop thinking about things that aren't the fight. His hands begin shaking, and he recognizes the sensation. He swings back, and he says that he's starting to understand what this is, as there's a peculiar flow drawing him into the fight. He recalls his grandfather, saying that this man died to the 5 tiger severing blades of the Peng clan. Yunsel asks how he knows, and his grandfather says there's not a single external wound on him, but his bones are all fractured, and that the 5 tiger severing blades specialize in ki flowing into the opponent whenever their weapons clash. He doesn't know what wrongdoing he did to oppose a martial artist from the Peng clan, who seldom showed their face in the Jianghu. Yunsel then calls out to the man, saying that this is the 5 tiger severing blades, which catches him off guard. He asks him how he knew, and Janyang says that another characteristic is a powerful absorption technique, and it's one of the basic techniques that uses qi, like a vortex that pulls everything inward, and they are able to draw nearby things to them. They utilize that every exchange to interfere with their opponent's weapons. Then they use that opportunity while the opponent's sword is twisted to swallow them whole. And that's how the Peng clan fights, just like a tiger. Yunsel asks if they are the most powerful martial arts sect, and his grandfather laughs, saying that though the absorption technique is quite tricky, it is also a double-edged blade. It means that they themselves are bound to get closer to the opponent. Yunsel says that he will utilize the absorption technique. As he tightens the grip on his blade, he charges in, saying that he will use it to twist the opponent's sword to him. The guy then introduces himself as AK of the Peng clan, saying that he will face him properly. In the name of his clan, he will uproot him. He swings downwards, which Yunsel dodges, and stabs the floor. AK wonders what's going on, and attacks where Yunsel is, but Yunsel dodges and kicks him in the side, causing him to slide backwards across the ground. Yunsel then picks up his blade, saying that it's working. AK asks how dare he play a petty little trick on him, and Yunsel says it worked, but he didn't deal much damage. But it makes sense as he's been training for a long time, though he knows how to counter him now. He recalls the advanced instructor saying that you need to wait for your opponent to attack first, and the moment you clash against them, if you can be even a split second faster than them, then that is what true speed is about. Yunsel says he'll utilize the energy absorbing technique against him so that he can be faster. AK charges straight at him, and Yunsel says that he won't try to go against the flow of the pulling force, instead he'll use it to his advantage. As AK begins pulling him to him, Yunsel flies in with it, and follows the flow. Then, if he changes his trajectory at the last second, he flies straight towards AK's head. AK dodges the attack, but he wonders what that was, and if he just used the energy absorbing technique to his advantage. But thinks it is impossible as the one he is using is strong enough to pull in a boulder that is far away, and it is difficult for even expert swordsmen to precisely utilize such strong powers. And there is no way someone as young as him could pull it off. He tries it once more, thinking it was a fluke, and as it starts to pull Yunsel in, he says there is no use, the stronger the absorption is, the faster his sword will become. He does it once more, flying in, cutting AK on his side, and AK asks how long he thinks that tactic will work. Yunsel dodges the follow-up, saying that he is not using the energy absorption technique anymore, and AK says that he doesn't need to use it against someone like him in the first place. He charges straight towards him, and raises his sword overhead, and Yunsel says that he has been waiting for this. He uses the first technique of the fire rain sword, the shining mystique, as he has a red aura blowing off of him. As he stands his ground, AK dashes straight past him, and we see just from that short clash that Yunsel got cut all over, but he wasn't the only one. As AK's shoulder begins bleeding, we see that it was a pretty severe attack, as he even starts spitting up blood. He falls to his knees, asking if that was the shining mystique, and Yunsel says it was, but realizes that was dangerous. In order to change the one lethal move of the defensive technique into a whole attack, he had to have all other moves directed towards him instead. AK says to think that he'd interpret the shining mystique like that, he would have never been able to imagine it, asking if he's just going to leave. Yunsel says that he's not part of his revenge. AK sighs, but laughs afterwards, saying that there was someone like him in the demonic sect, and that's interesting, and he would like to see him again. Yunsel leaves him bleeding there until AK falls backwards on the ground. He asks the killer demon if they're here for him, and they say his name, saying that he was pretty useful for someone from the Orthodox sect, but that's a shame. He sighs, asking if they knew from the start. The killer demon tells him that he underestimates the demon palace. He raises his sword, telling him goodbye before we see blood flying. Elsewhere on Hell Island, we see somebody running. It's none other than Genia. He props up against the tree. He pulls a needle out of his arm onto the floor, and he looks pretty injured. One of the other contestants says that he got unlucky, and that he's in a pretty bad way, and they ask if he really thought he could get away after being poisoned by the special poison of the hellish blood castle, and he's a dead man walking unless he has the antidote. Genius says that he didn't know that there would be a group so organized with their stealth weapons and poison arts, and it seems like there's only so much he can do on his own. They walk forward, asking if he's going to fight with his left hand, and while he may be talented, there's no way he could do it. There's no way a right-handed swordsman can suddenly be adept with their left, and that he should just give up. They charge straight at him, throwing tons of hidden weapons, and he raises his hand trying to deflect them, but he can't do it to all of them. The attacks start landing, poisoning him even further. He says that if he doesn't take an antidote within 15 minutes, he's dead, but regardless as they start charging at him, he says that he's dead either way. One of their men then falls over screaming, and Genya wonders what's going on, as when he looks up, they start freaking out, asking who's ambushing them. And we see Yunsel leaping at them from behind. They turn, but the killing intent that he is releasing is definitely scaring them. Yunsel quickly charges into the group, cutting off one of the guy's heads, slicing another's throat, and cutting another one's stomach open. Genya's too shocked to see that Yunsel had dealt with all of them in that instant. He then looks over towards Genya, who audibly gulps, saying that he harbors no intent. Yunsel walks over to one of the bodies, and rolls it over, taking out the antidote. He says with this he should be able to face the rest of those bastards easily. Genya tells him to wait. Yunsel asks why, and he says that he's just been poisoned by them. He doesn't even have 10 minutes till it spreads throughout his body. Yunsel says that he's mistaken. He came here so he could kill everyone including him. The only reason he's leaving him here is because he doesn't even feel the need to kill him. Genya says that it's true. He'll die if he just leaves him here. In the end he's just a competitor for him to kill. But, he'll work with him if he gives him the antidote. Yunsel looks unfazed, asking why he would even do that to begin with. And Genya says there are about 20 people left. Besides them, they all have their own groups. No matter how strong he is, he can't face them all by himself. And if he works with them, he can tell them about their martial arts. So, it'll come in handy. If he saves his life, he'll never betray him. Yunsel says from what he's seen so far. Though Genya does have an ego, and does prefer to act independently, they're not the type to trick or betray anyone. Yunsel asks for the terms, and Genya says that until they are left at the end they will work together, and not betray each other. Yunsel thinks about it, and we see Genya's eyes looking desperate. Yunsel looks down at the antidote, and throws it to them. Genya thanks him, and starts pouring it on the wound. They then hear a whistle, and Yunsel asks if another area has been restricted. He tells Genya they need to get out of here now. Genya says that this area hasn't been restricted yet, and Yunsel tells Genya to think, as most parts of the island have already been restricted from the fact that another restriction has incurred. It means that they're going to be surrounded, and we see just that happen. One of them looks very smug, and Yunsel says that man is different from the others. One of them says that they are checking each other out to see who they'll kill, and he thinks they can agree on killing these two here first. Yunsel, the one who learned the wild beast path, and Genya, they keep calling him her, so maybe Genya was a woman, my bad, or it's bad translation, but they say that she's even investigated the other trainees so they can't underestimate her, and they were wondering why they haven't afforded a group. But, it seems they were working together. Yunsel says they even know about Genya, and they both look at each other as Genya shows the antidote. Yunsel says that he understands now. Genya tells Yunsel that she'll use the poison of the hellish blood castle, and then they'll have a chance. As it starts to disperse around them, they all start covering their mouths. Yunsel and Genya make a break for it, and one of them says to wait, as this isn't the poison, and that they tricked them. Genya says that the powder creates a smoke, so it's good for tricking the eye, and a large area is disadvantageous to them. They need to head for the rock formations where there are numerous small caves. She asks Yunsel if he's thinking the same thing. He says that he knows one. It's a cave with a narrow entrance, and a long path. She asks if he really had that all figured out, saying it's hard to believe that he learned the wild beast path, and wonders who he is. As they're running, the rest are right on their tail. We see that Genya is taking the lead a bit. They make it to the caves, and Genya says that they're here. But, when they get there's a fog, and they wonder what's going on. Genya asks if this has always been here, and Yunsel says something's off. Killer demons begin to appear, blocking off the area. She's confused by this, and Yunsel says they must be observing the situation, and they intentionally chose this place to be a restricted area since they were heading this way. Genya asks what they do, and Yunsel says as long as they don't cross that border they want to attack them. And if they have to fight, this is not the worst place to do so. If they have their backs to the restricted area, it's no different from standing in a cave with their backs to the wall. Genya draws her blade, saying that they have no choice. They both ready themselves, and the group ask if they're done running as they start to catch up. They begin laughing, thinking that it's already over since they have the two of them cornered. Their backs are against the killer demons, and one of them says that they're giving them more trouble than they're worth, and there's no more time to waste. And that they need to attack them all at once. They leap straight into the air, starting the battle. If you've watched till the end, comment, Siege, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.